Hello and welcome back. We are in day 14 of this Mule advanced training. In this lecture, you're going to understand basics of Git, GitHub. What is difference between Git and GitHub? You'll understand how to stage your files, how to commit, how to push, how to pull from GitHub, etc. These are the fundamentals. If you already know Git and if you're working on Git and GitHub, please feel free to skip this lecture. So let us get started.
Git is a version management system. We can manage multiple versions of our code. Version management system. So there are two things, Git and GitHub. What is difference between Git and GitHub? Git is a version management system on local machine. If you want to manage versions of your code locally on your machine only, you're not having a team, you are working individually. Only you are the person who are working on the code base. So your entire code will be in your local machine only. So for you, Git is sufficient. If you don't have a team, you're only one developer who is working on the code, but still you want to manage versions, then Git is sufficient. Okay. So actually what you do is you install Git on your local machine. Okay. And you create a local repository. Local repository. Then on that local repository, what you do is you add files onto the local repository. What are files? What are projects? Modify changes and then commit the changes to local repo only. Okay. So you are working individually, you will have local repository. In the local repository only, whatever you are writing, you will be committing, and you can have multiple branches of your code. I will tell you what is a branch quickly. Okay. You can maintain multiple versions of your code, and also you can maintain multiple branches, everything in the local repository. So you are a single user, that's fine. But what if there are multiple developers? Developer 1, developer 2, what they do is they also have Git locally. This developer also has Git installed locally. This developer also has Git installed locally. Both of them have Git installed locally. That means on developer 1 machine, let's assume that they have a repository 1 local. The files, they will be, this developer 1 will be committing the files onto local repository 1. And developer 2 also will have a same repository, repository 1 in his local. Both of them want to share code. Actually, what we do is now in this case, if we want a distributed version management, now we need GitHub. GitHub is a server which provides us a remote repository. Okay. Now, what we do is in GitHub, we create a repository. Okay. Let's say repository 1. Now, once we have uh, this repository for the first time, what we can do, assume that the developer 1 Initially, let's assume that developer 2 is not there. Okay. Now, what we do is we create on GitHub, we can create a remote repository. I'll show you how to create it. And on developer machine also, actually what we can do is on developer machine, we can clone this repository from the GitHub. On developer machine also, he doesn't have anything. Only Git is installed on developer machine. By using a command git clone, we will clone repository 1 on this machine. Okay. Similarly, developer 2 also can clone this repository. Now, assume that Siva Prasad is the owner of GitHub. I created this GitHub account. I am the owner. And there are developer 1, developer 2 who are actually my team. Developer 1 and developer 2 are my team. I am Siva who created this. Now, what I can do is I can add developer 1 and developer 2 as collaborators for my repository. I can add them as collaborators. So they will be able to push their code, right? So now Siva is a owner of this repository on GitHub, and Siva added developer 1 and developer 2 as collaborators. Assume. Now what? Developer 1 has cloned the same repository on his machine. Developer 2 has cloned same repository on the machine. Now, what the developer 1 will do is assume that he has added a file a.txt on his local repository. Once he has added this a.txt to the local repository and committed this a.txt to local repository, right? Developer 1 has this local repository right now. In this repository, he added a.text and committed this thing to local repository. But these changes has to be pushed to the remote repository. So first you have to commit to your local repository. Once everything is fine, the developer 1 will push the changes to remote repository. So the changes whatever are there in local repository will be pushed, right? Then the developer 2, assume that he has cloned the repository yesterday. Yesterday, he has cloned, there is no a.text. Assume that initially there is only b.text. Initially b.text was there. So when yesterday the developer 2 and developer 1 cloned, there is only b.text. Okay. Now the developer 1 has created a.text and committed. So whatever repository the developer 2 is having, the local repository is not in sync with remote repository. So to sync both of them, what this developer will do is he will do a pull. He will pull. Okay. He will pull the changes from the remote repository. So that the b.a.text also will get downloaded. Then developer 2 can work on his changes and again he can push the changes to repository. Right. So like that, multiple developers can actually collaborate and maintain versions on this one. All right. So let us, you understood the concept of Git and GitHub. First, let us work on one machine on Git first. Okay. How to work with local repository? I will show you a small demo. Then I will sync the changes with a remote repository. Then once that is done, I will check in my Mule project. I will check in my Mule project onto that repository. Okay. Then I'll give you access to my code through Git repository. Okay. Fine. Now, what I will do is right now, I have a folder here, Git repos. Now, I want to actually create a new folder, Siva first repo. Okay. I want this current folder to be a local repository of my application. Okay. So I have installed Git on my machine. So how to install? Very simple. I'll just go to Google, Git install. So it will take me to Git downloads. I can download for Windows. I can download the installable. It will download the installable. I can take all defaults to install. Okay. Once I install Git, it will be installed under C drive, program files, Git. Yes. Along with Git, by default, it will also install Git bash also. This Git bash is a bash terminal. I hope you know on Linux machines, you can use bash terminal to type Linux commands, right? So by using this Git bash, we can execute Linux-like commands on Windows as well, right? This Git is installed. Fine. Now, let me go to my, oh, where is it? I closed it. Fine. I'll again go into that folder. I want this folder to be my local repository. Okay, what I have to do is, I have to right click here and open Git bash here. So this will open my Git bash terminal here. I'm in this folder. To make this as a local repository, forget it. I don't have GitHub right now. I'm working on local repository. Okay. So what I will do is I'll say git init. I'll type a command git init. It will initialize an empty Git repository in the current folder. If you see that there is a .git folder, it is this folder is a Git repository. Okay. And by default, there will be a branch called as master branch, which is created. Okay. We'll talk about branches next. So what I want to do is I want to create a folder here, new file. I'll create a new file, a.txt. And inside this, I will write, this is first line, something. I wrote a file. So actually, in this folder, actually we can treat it as my workspace. This is my workspace. I have made some changes to my workspace. So there are some steps you have to do in your repository. So initially you have some code in your workspace. What you have to do is from whatever files I created a.txt in this workspace. What I have to do is, whatever local files are there in my workspace, I have to add them into a stage. I have to stage it. I have to add this file into staging. Once the files are added into a stage, then whatever are there in the stage can be committed. These are the steps we need to follow in Git. So right now I made changes. I added a file that is not present in stage, so we cannot commit it. Now, if I want to know what is the status, okay, let me stop this right now or let it be there. Right now, what I want to do is I want to know the status, Git status. Oh, what is it saying? No commits yet onto the master. There are some untracked files. A.txt. Git will track the files only whatever are added to stage. If you don't have files added to your stage, Git will not track them. So first thing I need to do is I need to add this file into stage, right? So if you want Git to track, what you have to do is you have to add that file to stage so that Git will track. So I'll add git add. I can specify a.txt, the file name, or if I give dot, whatever are there in the current folder, all the files will be added to the stage so that Git will track. So added. Now if I say git status, you can see the changes to be committed. This is the one. Now this file a.txt is a new file. But to commit this new file, what I have to do is I have to use git commit. While committing, I want to give a message -m. What is a commit message? This is first commit by Siva. Okay, one file has been committed, and this is the commit ID. Whenever we commit something to the repository, right now I'm committing only to the local repository. Whenever we are committing to local repository, there will be a commit ID. Now, I'll clear this. Clear. Okay, it is a bash, right? I have to use clear. Now, if I use git log, it will show the logs of the repository. There's only one commit. Okay. Hey, actually, on my machine, I have actually logged in to my Git account. So that is why it is showing the name. Okay. So let it be right now. You will understand how to log in later as well. Or let me remove it. Right. Security. User accounts. Windows Credentials Manager. Yeah. On GitHub, actually, I have this. So I will remove it. Sorry. I will remove this credential from Windows. If I say git log, again, it is showing me this is the author name. How did it know my name, my email ID? For the first time, if you are using, you have to configure actually git config Okay, it will show how to use git config. There is dash dash list. Git config dash dash list. Here if you see, I have given user.email and user.name. Okay. So let us see how to configure. So git config user.name. Yes. User.email. I don't need to give equals. That is a syntax. Fine. Now git config dash dash list. Now do you see email and name changed? Fine. Now if I say git log, actually while committing my name was Siva RPG only. Okay. Now I will do changes to the file. This is my second line. Fine. Now if I say git status, what is it saying? That file is already added to staging, right? It is saying you need to, this is modified actually. Changes are not staged for commit. I have to first add it to stage. So git add dot, then git commit -m. This is second commit. Committed. Now if I say git log, now you can see this is the earlier commit. When I was committing, the name which I have set locally was this one. This one. This was the first commit, and this is a commit ID. This is second commit, and this is a commit ID. Now you can see the author is whatever I have given. Fine. Now, even though there are two commits, the currently we are pointing to the head. Head is pointing to this master. So we are in master branch right now, and the head is pointing to this commit only. Okay. Now you know how to commit everything to your local repository. Now what I want is right now to be very simple. I want to push these changes to a remote repository. Okay. So I have, this is my new GitHub account which I created, and it is Siva LWW. I created this one. Okay. Now I can create a new repository. I have logged into my GitHub account, and I'll create a new repository. What is a new repository name I gave is my repo. I'll give my repo. Actually, this can be different, but to make sure that local name and remote name are same, I can give a new repository name as my repo. I want this to be the public repository. We can make it private also, but we'll see that later. I want everybody to be able to see my repository, public repository. And then I don't want to add a README file. Just I'll click on create repository. So I created a remote repository. Now it is asking to push an existing repository from command line. These are the commands. So first, what we need to do is we need to add this URL. This is the URL of my repository, my repo.git. I have to add this as a remote origin. add this as a remote origin. So this is a command which I need to do. Copy, paste. Okay. So now I added this folder, this URL as my remote origin. Then what is the next command? I want to say that the branch should be main. Git branch -m main. Okay. Now git push origin main. This is the command. Now, when I'm trying to push, actually, the Git should know what is the user ID, right? See, it is asking me to sign into GitHub. So my local changes, I want to push it to GitHub. So I should have an account in GitHub, and with my account, I'll be able to push. So sign in with browser. So this is the email ID. Yes. Okay. I guess it got redirected. Now it is pushing. See, it is pushing. Branch is main. Okay, now let us go and check on this GitHub account. I will refresh this my repo. Yeah. Do you see a.text? Yes. So there are two commits. If I see the commits, are these the commits? Right? This is the first commit. This is second commit. Fine. Now we know how to actually create a repository and how to push. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create a repository for my project. And then through any point studio, I'm going to push it. Okay. Let us. What I will do is I'll go to here and I'll create a repository with same name. I'll create a repository here with same name. A new repository with same name. Create. Okay. So now basically I want to add this as my wait. I have to first of all let me go. First of all, before any point studio, let me do the same thing manually. I'll go into this folder. Now, is this folder a Git repository? Is this folder a Git repository? No, right? So what I will do is I will again do a git bash here and do git init. Yes, now if .git folder is there, that means it is a Git repository. Now, again, I'll go to here. I will add, first of all, if I see git status. Okay, there are a lot of files which are untracked. These all folders, I have to add them. So git add dot, I'm adding to the stage of my local. Good. Git status. It is saying these are the changes to be committed. Then I will do commit. Git commit -m. This is first commit by Siva. So these are committed to my local repository. Now, how to actually add them to remote repository? So here it is, git remote add. I have to add my origin as this one. I'm pasting that command. Now I'm adding my new remote origin. Then I have to specify that my remote branch name is main. Done. Then git push the changes to this origin. This is the origin. And what? Main. To which branch? Main. That's all. It will push my local changes to GitHub. Yes, done. Now, if I go here and refresh this page, I should see my project. There is only one commit and I should see my project. Fine. Now, suppose if I change any file, for example, I'll go to here. Just I will do a refresh. Yes, let me do a refresh. Now, I'll change a file, any file. I'll just go here and add a logger. So this file is changed. Now, if I go to Git and say status, is it identifying that this file changed? Yes. So now how to commit the latest changes? First, I have to stage them. Git add dot. Then git commit -m. And I'll say this is second commit. Okay, committed. But this is committed to local. I'll have to push it. Git push. Git push, same command I have to use. Git push -u. The upstream is origin and main. So it will push my changes to the local, the remote repository. So that's how we actually push it. So tomorrow, what I will do is I'll tell you how to manage the files on Git directly through Anypoint Studio, how to commit through Anypoint Studio. I will tell few more basics about Git. And tomorrow we will complete the entire CI/CD, definitely, right? That's all. We'll see, we'll meet tomorrow and then we'll continue. Okay, then
Okay.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Sure.